We're going to make Vanilla Bavarian cream here with macerated strawberries. So it's a classical set European dessert. We're using both egg yolks and gelatine leaves as our thickening agent. As with all of our online video sessions, really important to get your mise en place ready. We have our milk and vanilla, our sugar, our cream, our egg yolks, and a pot of water on to be used as bain-marie later in the cooking process.
So you're remembering there, Rohan, we need to put our vanilla in with our cream or milk.
In with our milk.
In with our milk, yeah.
Yep.
We're going to put the pot of milk on. And what's the other bit of mise en place you have on the end over there, Rohan?
So I have some water in here to be used for a bain-marie for cooking the egg custard out.
That's our first few steps. Okay.
We're putting together our eggs and sugar and our warm milk and vanilla. This is basically a preparation for a creme anglaise, so you may use it in further recipes like your eggnog or making other anglaise-based sauces in your dessert unit. So I'm just combining the sugar and the yolk. It's important not to combine those too early. Mix them together. Mix them together in preparation for our milk. So our milk's come up almost to a simmer there, just over a low to medium heat. Don't try and make this happen quickly. Your flame will go around the edge of your pot and scald or burn your milk. So we're just going to start tempering these, adding them together.
It's important that we add this slowly, isn't it? Or at least bring those eggs up to a temperature where they won't curdle before we add all that in.
Alright, so we've got that all incorporated now. We're going to pass that through a shimmer and return it over to the bain-marie that we prepared earlier. I'm just going to pass that quickly through here. We're going to remove this mixture and continue cooking this on our bain-marie.
So it's quite important here, isn't it, Rohan, that we pick an appropriate sized pot for the bowl, and the heat doesn't come up the side of the pot here, isn't it?
Correct. You don't want the flames to be coming up out over the side of the pot, because it makes the purpose of the bain-marie irrelevant. You've got direct flame going onto the bowl.
So a gentle simmer, allowing the steam to hit the bottom of the mixing bowl. That gentle steam will permeate through the steel into the custard and slowly bring it to 82 degrees. That will take a bit of time, so we'll come back to this in a moment once Chef Rohan has brought this to 82 degrees and cooked out our custard.
Just as our creme anglaise is cooking here in the bain-marie, I'm going to start blooming the gelatine. I'll just put a couple of small amounts of ice in there. Normally tap water is okay, but when it's warmer temperature, a couple of blocks of ice help to prevent the gelatine from dissolving too quickly in the water. So it's just going to start dissolving for a couple of minutes, and it'll be ready for when our hot creme anglaise comes off the bain-marie.
So that gelatin will soften completely, so that when you add it to your hot custard, it actually dissolves. If you don't soften it, you'll end up with lumps or little shards through your custard. So just make sure that we do that. If you don't have ice, just very cold water is sufficient.
Okay, so we've had our creme anglaise cooking out over the bain-marie. We're getting to that coating the back of the spoon stage. You'll see that there's a line formed in there and it doesn't drip through the line. So that's a good indication. You can also use a temperature thermometer like this and see that it's reached 82 degrees. So I'm just going to take that off the heat. We're going to need this bain-marie for macerated strawberries in a moment. My gelatine has now soaked. Make sure you remove as much excess moisture as possible. So really give it a good squeeze. And break it up as it goes in a little bit. Stirring well. You'll see that dissolves very quickly. If you don't have this many stainless steel mixing bowls as we do here, any bowl that you have at home. I'll just give it a close up there so you can see that's all gone through. So now we need to pass this again through the same shinwire we used earlier to a bowl of ice.
So you've got that smaller mixing bowl over the larger mixing bowl with ice in it. And now we have to work fairly quickly and show a good level of concentration, because that will set quite quickly on the bottom of the bowl if you don't keep it moving.
We also need to whip our cream. There's that cooling. You can have your cream whipped earlier. I'm just going to start on my cream quickly. I'm going to constantly move the creme anglaise at the same time.
So what stage of whipping are you looking for here, Rohan?
We're just looking at a soft peak. We want to incorporate some air and some volume into the cream, but we don't want it so stiff that it's hard to incorporate into the set or the near set creme anglaise.
I'll give you a hand here, I'll keep this moving. So it's important that we do our timing on this one, because that ice can really just set this up a bit too quickly. So you can always get mum and dad to help you with the whipping process.
We'll have it whipped in advance as well. You may need to whip it back to soft peak because the cream can fall back on itself.
So at this point it's really important, soft peak, because what happens is, if you over whip this and try and fold this through, it's too dense, so you'll push out all the air and all the custard. Basically what happens is you just push around the lumps. So if you have a nice soft peak, you'll be able to incorporate that into the custard. And it'll just enlighten the custard, but not only that, the cold temperature of the cream will help set the custard so it is nice and firm. You can see what Chef Rohan's got here. He's just stopping near the end, just to make sure he's got that right stage, the soft peak.
So you can see the ribbons forming when it's starting to thicken up. You just want to move this and see that it falls back on itself. Okay, that's enough. We don't want to work the cream any more than that.
And as you fold it through, you continue to work the cream. So it actually whips itself as you fold it through.
So again, you can check the temperature here, just to see what temperature we've got here. If you add the cream when the mixture is too hot, you'll split the cream and the Bavarois won't stay together. So we're about 29 degrees there. Keep stirring it, cool it down a little bit more. So we're taking just above setting point.
So at this point, Rohan, when they incorporate the cream, they can get it to the right temperature, can't they, and just put half the cream in and whisk the first half in, and the second half they could just use the balloon whisk to fold gently.
Yeah.
Now on this recipe it does say to use a balloon whisk to fold. That's just a lot more efficient than if you use a spatula, because if you use a spatula you'll actually knock more air out than you would if you used a balloon whisk. We'll come back to this in about 2 minutes once this custard's about to set.
Okay, now our anglaise is cooled to the appropriate temperature. You'll be able to see as you run along the edge of the bowl that it's starting to set, starting to form lines. Ribbons are coming down off the mixture. So now we can start incorporating the soft whipped cream. So just whisking it in, don't be too rough, no banging on the side of the bowls. Just want to incorporate that cream. It'll continue to thicken a little bit as you incorporate it. As soon as you see it's all homogenized there, everything's combined, you can start adding a little bit more of the cream. Please be gentle. You don't want to be banging anything. Don't want to be banging the bowls or banging the equipment. So I'm adding.
So the cream in this recipe, Rohan, pretty much lightens it. It's not like a mousse where you're really counting on that lightness of the cream to hold the product. This has got gelatin, so the cream is basically lightening a custard. Slight difference. You should still be pouring consistency when you put it into your molds.
Okay, I can feel that's starting to thicken on the side of the bowl there, so I want to incorporate the last of my cream. Just being very gentle still. And as soon as that's all mixed in, we're ready for pouring. Okay, so now we've incorporated all our cream. It's still a pouring consistency. You could use a ladle if you have a small ladle at home. So we're going about 3/4 of the way up the molds that we're going to provide you.
So at that point, they probably just want to give it a little bit of a tap. Make sure it lies nice and flat. And then you want to do this with all 9 of your molds. I think you should get about 9 or 10.
Should get 9 or 10. We're just going to do this 3 for you. Just be gentle. Knock the air a little bit. It's important to work quickly at this stage.
And these go in the fridge for probably an hour or so, don't they, Rohan?
Yeah, it could be up to an hour. Let them set fully, and we're going to show you how to make the macerated strawberries for the topping. Here we're preparing the macerated strawberries for the tops of our Vanilla Bavarian. We have some strawberries here. Depending on the size of them, large strawberries you may need to quarter, smaller ones halves, just depending on the size. Put it into a large enough bowl to sit on top of a bain-marie, and just coat them with the sugar. We're going to cover those. Then place them on the same bain-marie as we had before. It's simmering. And then we can turn off the heat and let it stand for about half an hour, depending on the size of the strawberries. Our Vanilla Bavarian has set in the fridge. That's taken probably about close to an hour for it to set. We've had the macerated strawberries sitting on the bain-marie that's been switched off for about half an hour. They've softened up. We're going to add probably about 5 strawberries to each Bavarian. Just be careful with your plating. I'll come back and add a little bit more juice as I go.
So in this recipe, they may end up with more Bavarian creams than they actually need in terms of not enough strawberries to top them all. But you could put any other kind of fruit on top of them and give them to mum and dad, even freeze them and they'll keep for next time. There's your Bavarian cream.